Mozilla, by the way, on your oh yeah,
Yes,
it is. That's amazing.
I have an extensive collection of very nerdy t-shirts.
Yes, of course, because that's your background.
Being a
Game.
nerd.
Yeah. Yes, yes,
That's true.
yes.
They're both true. My background, my lifetime has been being a nerd, and I ended up in the games industry because of
Oh my goodness. Well, hopefully maybe we can yeah, dive a little into that.
it.
Um, but welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you, Adie. It's nice to be here. I will
Nice.
compose myself in a second. Ah, there we go.
Welcome, Matt, to the Animas interviews. Would it be okay to start off with just you introducing yourself and what you do and what's brought you to coaching? That'd be great.
Yeah, my name is Matt Ibbs. I am an executive coach for the games industry, MGI Coaching. And the thing that brought me to coaching, I had your classic career in management, where I had received no training whatsoever for somewhere in the region of a decade, I think, into my management career. And when I originally moved out of the games industry and into media, I worked for Sky, and they sent me on a training course quite early on in my tenure there. And one module on the training course was around active listening, I'd say, more than it was specifically coaching, but it touched upon the ideas behind coaching. And the the sort of the premise really behind the module itself is like, if you can sit down, listen, really pay attention to what it is that somebody who works for you is telling you, you are much more likely to be able to, like, have a productive working relationship with them. And the ideas behind it really stuck with me. They really, I can't put my finger exactly on why, but the ideas behind it really stuck with me, and I just started to do my own research into it. So I was online Googling it. I came across Michael Bungay Stenya's, a classic book like The Coaching Habit. It Because that book is so well written and was so aimed at managers who are wanting to think in a more and act in a more coach-like manner. That really stuck with me as well, and I started to just build and build and build upon it. And the joke that I tell people is that I fell in love with coaching because I'm lazy. Um, and it is true. Like, the what is amazing about working with people in a coach-like manner is that actually, and that that all the science backs this up, is that getting somebody to think about the solutions to their own challenges, you are much more likely that they are going to then go and implement them because they came up with the idea. And it's just such a simple piece of psychology, but it's incredibly effective. And it really genuinely helps people. It's not cynical, it's not done with ill intent. It's a way of working with people to help them be the best version of themselves. And that really is what coaching is all about. It's a wonderful lesson to learn during my self-taught phase of coaching.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a misconception, isn't it? That when clients come to coaches, that the coaches have the answers and they'll do the thinking, but actually inside it's complete opposite. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's occasionally, and it's such a funny thing when you're trying to really tell people what coaching is and what coaching isn't, and be very, very clear about that. And even though coaching is growing in stature, is growing as an industry, it's still not sort of something everybody thinks about, on a daily basis. So you try to tell people what it is, and even
Mm.
with clients that you've had for some time, they will still lapse every now and again and go like, "Oh, just tell me what to do," and you're like, "I'd love to."
Mm.
But I can't. That's not how this works.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. I'm curious in, in the uh, game industry, in your management roles, what do they tend to struggle with at the time? Back when you were still self-taught, what were you noticing? That might be useful for people to maybe relate to. Actually, there is coaching that I can develop here. Yeah.
I think I think that the main challenge when I was first getting into working with people in a coach-like manner, um, the main challenge is people haven't ever really worked like this before. So actually, the main challenge isn't necessarily the challenges that people are sort of facing on a day-to-day basis in terms of like their goals or their work or the friction that comes with working in teams and so on. The challenge really was that sort of slightly meta-textual challenge of how do I get these concepts into an environment and start really working with people in a way that they understand that actually we're shifting the way that we work together and that more is expected of you because I don't think that I am the one that should be telling you what the answers are. I think, and this is a phrase that I came across much more recently, but I think it really rings true. But like Nancy Klein's Time to Think work, where she posits this idea that the mind that contains the question is the mind that contains the answer. And it's even though I didn't understand that phrase at the time, it's that you're trying to get across to people. So that it's not really the challenges that they face, and you are helping, you're working with them and co-creating solutions, not helping, and all that good stuff. But it's actually really it becomes a bit more about a change management process. And I think if I went back and did it again, I think I would be much clearer about that and work more broadly with people on these concepts before we got stuck in. And I think that that was telling of my, I guess, immaturity in terms of understanding the topic and in terms of like implementing change into structures, which I learned a lot more about later. But that's the thing that I think would have made that whole process much easier is think about introducing this way of working as a change management project, really kind of bring people on the journey with you. I was very fortunate that actually the team I worked with at the time were great and most of them, I'd say 90% of them completely understood what was happening and how we were going through it. But I think that that is because I'm lucky, not because I had thought about what it was that I was really doing.
Mm-mm. Will you share and describe that more? How would you, this change management process, how would you describe it now, basically, if you actually were? That might be interesting,
Yeah.
and helpful.
So I guess in very broad strokes, because it's been
Yeah,
a little while since I've done change
sure.
management. Like
Mhm.
essentially what you really want to be doing as far as implementing a new technique such as coaching in a way that you are going to bring more people on the journey with you is that you need to start that it starts with communication. Communication absolutely and utterly underpins everything that we do, no matter what it is that we are doing. I was working in a school yesterday, and I asked somebody like, "Do you know what a coach does, and or what makes a good coach?" And they said communication. I was like, "Yeah, it's like basically it's such a big part of it." Um, and the you need to sort of paint the picture, break it down from a kind of like a sort of very structured narrative perspective. This is the world in which we live now. We don't have these coaching concepts. You expect me to come and sort of fix everything and kind of get stuck in and like the expectation is probably more towards micromanagement and verifying everything with me because there is a hierarchy.
Mhm.
However, think about the world that we could have where actually like you are coming up with these solutions. You understand the problems much more keenly than I do because you are the ones going through them. So what would the world look like if actually not only were you just figuring out what the problems are, but you were also then coming up with solutions? And my role shifts into unblocking you. So you're stuck, I'll unblock you. but you are going to be implementing these solutions. And here's all the kind of great reasons why that this is going to work. Here's some data to back it up. Here's like some interesting examples of how this has worked in the past. Once you've got through that initial chunk, you've really started to set this foundational piece up as far as this is concerned. It's then around sort of continuing that level of communication with people and coaching these people. Like, this is how we're going to go through it. This is what it looks like. If you have any questions, ask them. Like, they will be able to tell you, like, once they start to experience it, they're going to be able to start to talk to you much more confidently about what it's like and how it's changing them. But also continue that layer of communication with the team more broadly. Here's the successes from this week. Here's what we've learned so far. Then it's this, the classic sort of change cycle thing. It's like, you implement a change, everybody's fine for a little bit, then everybody thinks it sucks, and then you kind of win people back over again. And it's just trying to really work with people in a way where they can see that and they can feel the change that's going on. And there's something else, again, this is just my memory. Shocking. Oh, well, it's gone. I would say that the main thing, and I think, if I could do it again, I absolutely would do much more of this stuff. But it's that layer of communication and really talking people through what this is and how it's going to benefit everybody in the long run, and just to kind of go with it, and also proving why it works as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What I got from that is it's a preempting and showing them the arc potentially of how it's going to unfold, so that they have that frame already in mind, and it's not, there's an understanding of what the process is going to be like, so it's not completely well, what is happening now, especially when the dip happens, or that makes sense.
You're really trying to, and that's the best way. It's that the classic presentation structure, which is tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them, and it's like, it's reductive, but it's absolutely true.
Yes, yeah. The main principles stand the test of everything. Yes. Well, after the training, so now you were doing your own your self-learning around the active listening and everything. At what point did you realize, okay, I'd like to take this further and do a coach training? How did you know that? If if you remember.
I do, actually.
Okay, great.
Because it took, and I don't think this is hyperbolic. I think it took between 2 and 3 years for me to persuade Sky to pay for my training. And I am genuinely indebted to them for doing that for me. However, I do think, to a certain extent, my boss and his boss, I think that they paid for it to shut me up. I think they got so sick of me pestering them that I think eventually they went, look, we will just do it. Would you just please leave us alone?
Yes.
And it was, and so I guess, like, tracking back from when I did the training with Animas, which I think was in 2021, I think, tracking back from that means that I guess that I had sort of had this idea somewhere in the region of maybe 2018, 2019. And I knew from reading, all these like amazing books around coaching, like from Nancy Klein, Michael Bennett-Extender, and so on. I knew that this was where my future lay. And it's interesting. My career is split up very neatly, or at least it was until about a year and a bit ago. It was split very neatly into 2 halves, which is like about a decade and a bit working in the video games industry, and then about a decade and a bit working for Sky. And all the time in management and leadership positions, pretty much, about 20 plus years of that at this point. But I don't think I'd seen a career path for myself quite as clearly as I did with coaching. And even then, while I was, just doing my own learning, doing my own reading, like trying stuff out on my team, whether they liked it or not, I could see this vision of the future where actually what I really wanted to do was just be independently wealthy, semi-retire, and actually do a lot of pro bono, like social impact coaching. And it was one of the first things that I was chatting to people about in the Animas cohort that I was in. And the last time that I had that clarity of vision in terms of my career was when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old and I played Sonic the Hedgehog for the first time and went, imagine if you could get a job playing video games for a living. And I eventually did get a job playing video games for a living. so so it was great. It was really nice to have a vision. It's something I kind of felt like I'd really chosen for myself. And then it was really about like when when is going to be the right time to sort of start to implement this vision for myself.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds almost instinctual. Like you once you started to engage with it, it's like, yep, this is it, and you saw the path clearly. That's how it's sounding.
Yeah, I am. You interact with coaches all the time, so
Yeah.
you can tell me if I'm wrong on this. But my experience of working with coaches are much more. It's a broad stroke. It is like it's not.
Yes.
It's, but coaches tend to be the overthinker sort of variety of person who maybe take a little bit longer to come to a decision, maybe overthink things. I have the opposite problem, is that I underthink absolutely everything. And so, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It is, I do most things by gut feel, and I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it and I'm working on it. So it's okay.
Wait, do you see what has been has there been a disadvantage in terms of your path as a coach, do you find, or like in terms of, yeah.
A disadvantage. I don't know if it's been a disadvantage. It depends, man. That it's such a tricky subject because the way that I tend to work is that I kind of go interesting and I just crack on. Like I will make a lot of mistakes along the way, but I will also learn from the idea is that I'm learning from those mistakes as I make them. What's nice about the opposite point of view
Yeah.
is that you might sit down and think about what mistakes you could come up against. So that's the learning for me as far as this is concerned. And I do try to, I work to be a lot more mindful about these things. I do try to react less and take a little step back every now and again and plan more, especially for the long term. I'm much better these days at long term planning. I have a whole sort of 2-3 year plan for the business and so on. So like I'm getting there, but I don't think I think it is advantages and disadvantages for
Yes.
both, but it's not like one is better than the other. I think it's just how we're wired. And one of the cool things that I learned very early on, especially with the Animas training, especially then kind of becoming a member of the ICF, is that actually you can't look into this stuff. I keep referencing my books over there that are off camera, but if it helps, there's some books over there. um, One of the things that I really like about this line of work is that you can't start it without becoming really interested in not just other people and the way that they think and the way that they show up, but it's also that kind of self-reflective point of like, oh, I see myself in this. And oh, I get it. These are the mistakes that these are the patterns that I've got, the habits that I've got. And this is where I should start to try to kind of work on these edges and soften them. And like for me, it's like plan more, think strategically more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, completely. I tend to say that with prospective coaches as well. I mean, now, yes, we spoke back in 2021, but
Yeah.
now, after experience too, that we all bring our own geniuses, but what the training does is it starts to balance it out. If you, like you said, if you're someone who doesn't quite plan naturally, that's going to show up in the coaching, and that's what you're going to be reflecting on. And likewise with others, people who want to like fix, plan, it's the letting go that they learn during the course. So love that you touched on that as well. So let's go into the Animas training. How was that for you? What were the highlights? Maybe what surprised you? But yeah, anything you can say.
So this is where my memory is going to really let me down because it was 5 years ago now, and
Yes.
I have the kind of memory where I can barely remember stuff that happened last week, quite frankly. However, one of the things that I loved about the course itself was the facilitators, the coaches that Animas have that run the course are just exceptional. They are so knowledgeable, so smart, so switched on about coaching and the world of coaching, and really it just a pleasure from start to finish working with all of those. They were each and every one brought something new and something interesting and a fresh perspective. And so while there are, it is a training course, there are beats that you have to hit as you go through it. There were so many fantastic opportunities to have conversations, to question them about their experiences, what they thought. And, being together as a cohort, and I 2021, so I'm guessing we were kind of fully ensconced in the online,
Yes.
COVID-y world, that even though it was online, and we as a cohort, we didn't meet up until after we'd all passed. And I think we were allowed out of the house at that point, and we could go. We met up in a pub in London,
Oh,
and
that's so nice.
it was lovely. And despite it being an online cohort, it was really, we felt very connected, I feel. So there was that element to it, and it was a wonderful experience. We haven't all kept in touch, but a few of us do. Every now and again, we're still chatting. One of Nisha, who was on the same cohort as me, we're still in touch. We see each other every couple of weeks, and we're working together on some stuff. And I speak to Sean every now and again. So it does. If you want it to, you build this community. You build this really kind of close-knit community of coaches, and it's the and this isn't necessarily Animas to a certain extent, but the thing that I keep reflecting on in terms of when I left Sky and set up my own coaching business, the thing that I kick myself about was that I knew this was what I wanted for a very long time, and I had not done enough to set up my practice in the background while everything was stable and everything was kind of good at Sky. And so when I left, I hit the ground running because I didn't have any other option. But if I'd made more of an effort to grow my practice in the background and sustain, connections and communities while I was at Sky and so on and so forth, I think my transition into working for myself would have been a lot better.
Yeah, sorry, go
But
on.
you didn't ask me about that. You asked me.
No, I would love to go into that in a second. I'll go back to the training. So setting up clients, people tend to ask about that. How was that experience for you? Was it people from work, or did you reach out? Could you share?
Sure. I was very fortunate that because I worked for Sky at the time, because I was doing the training and because they'd invested in me to do the training, I did get the go ahead from my boss to be able to reach out to people across Sky and say, hey, I can work with you in this way. Would you like some coaching internally? So that was a fantastic opportunity. I worked with a number of people internally at Sky, and I got some very, very positive feedback from them. And so it was, I was, again, I'm I don't know if this is because I am much more likely to just jump into stuff and not overthink it. But I'm lucky. I think there's this idea that luck is effort plus timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I end up generating quite a lot of luck because I'm just constantly sort of doing things, and occasionally it's that confluence of events. And so yeah, I was lucky. I managed teams, so I was working with them in a coach-like manner, which was great. I was starting to, coach people internally at Sky from different departments and different, parts of the organization itself. And I was able to build up my hours. I was able to start to make sure, because I think is it 100 hours that we needed for was it 16? I can't remember now.
40 for the
40.
diploma and then 100 for the ICF, yes.
Thank you. Yes. So yeah, it was really being in and working for an organization, being able to work with people within that organization to start to bank those hours that you need, that one-to-one time with clients, with people, coachees. Yeah, it was a huge opportunity that I really took advantage of.
It's amazing. And now when you were doing the training, if you remember, what noticeable changes did you see that coaching added versus just, the management techniques beforehand? Like, does that make sense? How did the conversations change, basically?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the things that I found, I don't know if you've noticed from our conversation so far, but like, if you ask me a question, I will just start talking and probably not stop. Great. Yeah. For an interview, it's absolutely brilliant. For a manager, it is terrible. So I think one of the things that the training at Animas really helped me with was that stillness, that being able to really still the mind and really listen and hold that space for people. And I was able to take this technique and not just implement it in one-to-one sessions with people I'm working with direct reports, but implement it like in all manner of conversations. And I think that helped with my communication a lot. That this idea that less is more. And I know I'm not demonstrating that now. I know I'm going very much for the more is more, but that's but that it's that that's the thing that really helped me, and that I think that's the thing that changed the conversations, because you are working with people in a way to get them to really think independently. And it's such a wonderful thing to be a part of, when you see somebody come in with a challenge or with a thought that's on their mind, or something that they want to sort of like challenge you with almost. And if you can just be there with them and let them talk through this, it is genuinely amazing what people can achieve with. And it's this amazing thing where they think you're a genius, and it's like, I haven't really said anything. I saw this the other day. I was in a training course, and somebody was being coached, and we were observing, and they said, "You're so smart," and the coach went, I haven't really done anything. And it's a wonderful thing to see, and it is being there with people who are experiencing this and being able to be a part of that process is phenomenal. And it changes the way that people think. And if you can change the way that people think, you can, they can change the world, their world.
Transformative coaching, paradigmatic.
There you go,
paradigm shifts. That's exactly it. That is exactly it. We hit on the head. And Matt, people are curious, you know, with these conversations, were they always one-to-ones? Were they always 45 minutes or an hour? Or actually were they, you know, quick chats? Like how did that look in your day-to-day role? Yeah.
It was everything, like everything and everything in between. It was, you know, you can have very quick conversations with people, you know, where it's you can, you know, they ask you a question and you go, you know what, I don't know the answer to that. What do you think? There's the classic example in, I'm pointing my books again.
Pointing.
There's the classic example in Michael Bungay-Stenius' book, which is like, there are times to coach people and times to not coach people. I would like to know where the stapler is not a coaching opportunity. But if somebody comes to you and says, you know, I need to get this report finished and I don't know if I've got the time to do it, that's an opportunity for you to go in with this radical curiosity. Okay, great. Let's, you know, tell me more about that. Like, what's the real challenge here? All these just little questions that if you learn, if you can start to sort of bank them somewhere, and again, it's part of the learning is like this thing where it's like sometimes it doesn't even really matter what the question is, as long as it probably starts with a what, and it's relatively short, you're probably okay. Like, and it's the confidence to know that like a question is probably better than a statement, and any question is probably better than worrying about the right question. And so you can have these little moments with people where it's just, hey, it's interesting. I don't know what the answer is. What do you think? Up to and including like 60, 90, 120 minute, like, you know, group coaching sessions, like with a full team assembled. And you are there really as the facilitator, you know, like working in a coach-like manner to bring people into the conversation. So I think it's really this kind of this going back to this point of like actually it's being present in the moment, and it is trying to understand what is really needed at that particular juncture. And where was I going with that thought? It's gone. Essentially, like giving people the space and the time that they need to think clearly about anything. Yeah.
Yeah. The term that was coming up for me is the unconditional positive regard that you give to your clients. That's what I'm hearing when you were describing that. It's like, I know you have the answers. And so with that, coupled that with a question, it's like, it's an opening, you know, of insight.
I loved it. Yeah, there was I can't remember. I think it was an ICF call that I was on. And I think we were wrapping up one of the ICF Ignite courses that we've been working with them on. And somebody said, I kind of fall in love with my clients a little bit. And I was like, that's such a nice way of putting it. But it's this idea of, she was like platonically, like I'm not I don't like stalk
To be
them or
clear.
anything. Yeah, to be clear,
Yes.
platonically. But it's this idea that you know, if you can hold that level of positivity and real interest in somebody, that you can be there as they sort of like come up with these amazing ideas and amazing ways of thinking about the world.
Completely. We're doing magic. It feels like magic sometimes, honestly. It really does, I think. And Matt, so now as an executive coach, you would say that's your niche now. Okay, amazing. What was that like? The transition into to having your own practice. Tell us about what it looks like. Yeah.
What was it like? Man, it's been a wild year and a bit. You know, I mentioned earlier, like I had to hit the ground running. I set myself some incredibly challenging goals, and that really helped. Like, and again, this idea that like I do run on intuition and caffeine, essentially, and
That's what works.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the knowing that I had to start to think about what the future might look like, knowing that I had to have some real serious goals, that I was able to draw on my corporate experience as far as that's concerned. You know, we had the usual like rounds of PDPs, like what's your professional development look like for the year ahead. So I was able to kind of
Mm,
take a lot of these learnings from a corporate structure and bring them into setting up my own business. Whereas had I done it at any other sort of juncture, I'd have been a lot more like, I don't know. But the transition from a corporate world into a sort of working for myself world, I think was one of the most challenging and one of the most rewarding things that I have done as far as my career is concerned. Um, there are definitely things that I would do differently, but there are definitely things that I genuinely nailed. Like, it's, I think that it's, there's a few things that I think that everybody should go through in their life. I think one of them is working in a pub um, to really see the best and potentially the worst of people, and also gives you a real empathy for people that work in the service industry. It
yes,
will mean that you will probably never ever be rude to anybody who works
after.
like in a customer facing role. Um, and I really think that you should, I think that everybody should have a go at starting up and running their own business.
Mm,
And the reason I say that is because the when you work for a company, especially a medium or larger company, so many things are done for you and thought about for you. Whereas setting up your own company, it's like, okay, so I am my accountant. God help me, I am terrible at maths. I am my marketing manager. I am my social media manager. I am my office manager. You have to wear all these different hats. And the learning that you can get from all of those different things is immense. You won't ever learn quite as much about yourself working in a corporate environment as you will working for yourself and being a business owner, whether you work for yourself and it's just you, or you set up a small company and you actually bring people in to do stuff as well. And it's been phenomenal. I've made mistakes. I've bet on people to help me out, and they have let me down. And I lost a lot of money doing that. And it's you have to grow a really thick skin because you are going to make mistakes. So it's about like, okay, I made a mistake. What can I do differently next time? What can I do better? Um, I have won contracts that I never thought I would have been able to win. I've been helped by people who I hadn't spoke to in years, who I reached out to and said, "Hey, how's it going? I'm doing this new thing. Like, I'd love to catch up. I know it's been a while." And so all these like amazing experiences, like that I never would have gone through if I hadn't done this. And it is not to be done lightly. It's not for everybody. I get that. But I think there's so many things to be learned from it that it's been brilliant. And I get why people do this. I really see it. I never thought I would kind of get to this point. Um, and at the moment, at least, fingers crossed, like the future's looking pretty good. So I'm just whatever I'm doing, it's kind of working. So I'm gonna keep doing it.
yeah, yeah. Do you mean like the point of like I'm enjoying running the? Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, mm. I'm curious that so I'm asking the questions that people tend to ask me, so contracts, for example. Could you share what working as a coach looks like? Is it just one-to-one all the time? What's inside a contract? For example, how do you agree that? How did things like that? If you could, yeah, just a short, not a big question at all. Yeah.
What's in a contract? It's a very
Yeah.
good question. I don't know. I would have to dig out a contract to be honest to look at it. But
Yeah.
I believe Animas have template contracts on the website.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean,
So
so As in, like, how do you agree, with an organization? Okay, this is, the work that we
Yeah,
want to do, etc. What does one look like for you?
that's it's a great question. So at the moment, my business is fairly like nicely split between coaching, facilitation, and setting up peer groups as well, which are group coaching plus individual coaching as well. And the the good news, a contract is a contract is a contract to a certain extent. It really is about, and a person that I met recently put it so brilliantly, is like a company is a vehicle for delivering promises.
Mm,
And that the contract really is about, this is what you are going to get from me, this is what I expect
mhm,
from you, and this is roughly, this is the transactional cost of it. So it depends very much on who it is that you're working with. Like because a lot of the work that I do is individual clients that may be
okay.
self-funded, that makes that contract aspect of it much easier. It's much more straightforward. Myself and my colleague Jenny, we did some work recently for an EU program, and the contract for them was a little bit more complicated because that had to
Mm,
go through the city of Vienna. So yeah,
yes.
it's like the city of Vienna or somebody signed the contract on the behalf of the city of Vienna because they're based in the EU, and we were doing it's a whole thing. So I think the answer to that question is unsatisfactorily as broad as it is, deep. Essentially, there's so many different kinds of contract. But ultimately, what it boils down to is, we will do this for you on this date. You will give us this much money in return.
Nothing it's going to be as tailored as your client is and what you agree. Exactly. Okay, amazing. And now you mentioned that there are things that you had to learn or would do differently now. Could you give us your absolute top lessons, maybe just in the last year that you, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you are considering a transition into working for yourself as a coach, then I would say you cannot start early enough in terms of looking for people to work with, getting involved in coaching communities, um, building a list of people that you want to work with, niching. Like this is such a crucial thing as well. Like I was working with like a guy that I know. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he was telling us this story of when he was running a particular business, and he understood his ideal client profile so well that he knew exactly what train they were getting into London in the morning, what
Wow.
newspaper they read, right,
Wow.
and what newspaper they read, which meant that he could put an advert in that newspaper. And so you, as a coach, like, it's very easy for us to go, I'm going to set up my coaching business. And people go, who are you going to coach? And you go, everyone. And the problem is that if you want to coach everyone, you are not going to be able to talk to a specific individual. And you need to start to think about who it is that I am talking to. And if I can identify and solve a pain point of theirs and communicate that so well that you have a fighting chance of building a successful business. And so I, I'm still working on mine because I'm quite happy with, I am an executive coach for the games industry. Like, I'm pretty happy with that, but I think that it can be more refined. I think that actually I can do more work there, and it is a process. Um, and it's a thing that holds back a lot of coaches that I've worked with, that I talk to, that and I've even spoken to coaches who come from a marketing background who should be
Yeah.
able to do this stuff with their eyes
Mm-hmm.
closed, and even they are like,
Mm-hmm.
can't get over this little hurdle. Start thinking about who it is you really want to work with, what domain, what level, like, what background might they have come from, like all these different things that will sort of come together to inform you of who your ideal client profile is. Because as a friend of mine put it, just because you're talking to your ideal client, that doesn't stop other people from listening in. And I think that's like, that was one of the things that stuck with me as well. Like, I can target my communication at a specific person. That doesn't stop anyone else, like, kind of getting in touch.
Yeah, no, completely. What do you think works effectively regarding finding that out? What niche, what's helped you? What have you seen has been effective for coaches? Because you're so right, it's so hard to, yeah, pinpoint that.
Incredibly hard.
Yeah.
The thing that helped me, and again, the thing that helped me was thinking about the background that I had. And I think that focusing in on the games industry, even though I've not worked in the games industry for a while, I still had contacts in the games industry. I still have a huge affinity for I'm still a gamer. I'm still that nerd, essentially, that I will clock off after we're done with this, and I will go downstairs and I will play video games. And
Yes.
so that really helped me. And then it was like, okay, well, like if I'm working with people within the games industry, who do I feel that I can help the most? My background is in management, my background is in leadership. It would be remiss of me to think that I could help a coder, for example, or a programmer or an artist, or even a producer to a certain extent. But I can work with people in leadership positions. Like, so then what is it that I want to help them with? I know for the most part, like that people in a leadership position will feel overwhelmed at some point. I know that they will feel lonely at some point. These are things that I think that I can work with them on. So it's like you're trying to go through these like steps of who is it that I really want to help? How do I think that I can help them? And how do I talk to them about that particular challenge that they are facing in a way that's still me? And that's it. It's like trying to find your voice as a coach. It always puts me in mind of comedians when they're talking about the only way to get good at comedy is to do it. Like there's only so much rehearsal you can do. There's only so many courses you can take until you have to get up on stage and talk to a room full of, if you're lucky, talk to a room full of people. And
Yes.
then it's how do I start to take that experience and start to think about it from my perspective? How do I start to pass this through my lens? Like, what is it about me that makes me me? And what is it about me that makes me interesting to other people? Because, like, with a coach, the only thing, especially if you're working just like one-to-one with clients, the only thing, not the only thing, the key thing that you have that's going to differentiate you from other coaches is who you are and the vibes that you get working with other people. And it's such a curious thing that you can have all the qualifications, you can have all the experience, read all the books, and I've spoken to people who are MCC level in the ICF, and they still go, they get to an end of a coaching session, and every now and again they're like, what even was that? Was that even coaching?
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So you have to start think about it from that perspective. Is like, actually, what do I bring to this? Like, what am I like as a coach? And what can I what can I do to foster these really interesting connections with people? Because a buddy of mine put it so amazingly the other day. And it's one of those quotes that you're like, I wish I'd thought of that. And they said the connection is the prize. And I was like, that is beautiful. Like, honestly, it makes me like, I'm devastated that I didn't think of it, but amazed that it's out there in the world now. It's an amazing thing. Yeah.
Connection is the prize. Well, mic drop, Matt. I think that was an amazing, amazing. I suppose full circle moment. It's really
Yeah, it
comes back
was.
to our self-work as well. Yeah. Wait, do you just have that on hand just for mic drop moments, basically?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, just
basically.
specifically for that.
Do you not?
I don't. I'm not as cool. Yeah,
You could take an AirPod out and just.
that's oh man. Well, like in terms of like just rounding the interview, is there anything else that yeah, anything else that needs to be expressed, you know, from your point of view, talking to everyone who is going to be listening to this?
I think that there's like one of the one of the things that I think will help um, is is there anything else? Actually, I thought I was going somewhere with that thought, and then I realized that anything else? I think that the for me, and this is like, going back to the kind of the person I am, is like I run on kind of, like what does my gut tell me? Um, I think that a thing that could really help is not thinking about it from the perspective of setting up a business, and it's not even thinking about it from the perspective of um, what do I want my business to be in the future, or even like what do I want my life to be like in the future. These are all brilliant ways of looking at goals and objectives. And I have these, this is something that I do myself. This is something I work on. But my mate Jenny, she was chatting to me about the way that she works with her kids, um, her children, and she said we don't ask them what they want to be when they grow up. We ask them what impact they want to have on the world. And I think it's trying to think about it from that perspective and then work back from there. So, do you want to have, very broadly, do you want to have a positive impact on the world? Great. Like, if so, in what way? Like, and then you can start to layer these things on top of it because it's this foundational piece. It's like the impact that I want to have is that people feel safer. The impact that I want to have is that people feel heard. The impact that I want to have is that people feel connected. Like that's where you will start to, if you think about it from those perspectives, you can start to layer everything else on top. And I think that will help a great deal.
Wow, amazing. I got a bit emotional there with the impact. That's amazing. Well, yeah, Matt, where can people find you and your work? How can they connect with you best?
Thank you. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn harassing people on LinkedIn. Just poking people. I go, please be my friend. So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn at MGI dash coaching. You can email me hello at MGI dash coaching and .com. And where else am I? It's kind of it, really, to be honest.
Sounds good. LinkedIn, and yeah, we'll put everything in the details in the description box below. But thank you so much. It was so lovely to have you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. It was a genuine pleasure to get to see you again and to get to chat to you. And as one of the things I love about this is like, as a coach, very few people ever ask you questions. And certainly in a coaching situation, you're not really supposed to answer them anyway.
Exactly.
So this is why you asked me a question. I'm like, oh my God, it's finally my I get to talk about. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been brilliant.
The best pleasure. It's the best pleasure. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, mate.